So let's continue to refine the code from anonymous class the code to Lambda. So let me add more buttons, 2, 3, button 4, and button 5. So snap it there, not resize, left and right. And this button, snap up, right, left. This button, snap it, snap it, snap it. This button, like that. So for this button, let me give ID B2, and then label of this button, add a new resource, then label B2. It is a button 2 Lambda implementation 1. And let me make it wide enough. There. And strings Lambda 1, and the Lambda does not show up, so let me make it wider. So let's go to the program code. ID B2 set on click listener with the same thing, but here next refinement is that instead of anonymous class, the set on click listener accepts a lambda expression which works exactly the on click function does. So remember, lambda expression is an anonymous function. We can simply define a function without a name, but what it does should be exactly like that. So lambda expression is always inside the curly brace, and then parameter is first defined. So v view, and then body of the function is after arrow. So this is a lambda expression, and in this body of the function is ID display text. So we want to display some message on that. So for convenience's sake, let me break line here. Then assign. So we want to get the hard-coded message from string definition. So here, let's copy B1 message as a B2 message, and then say B2 is clicked. Save that. So down here, what you're going to do is a resources get string, and then ID is r dot string dot B2 message there. So let's run the program to test it. Here's some suggestion. Better use concise lambda expressions. What I give here is a full syntax lambda expression. So as I click button 2 is clicked, it's work 1. And then let's move to the next step. On this button 3, ID button 3, the label of this button is add a new resource string, and the label button 3 is button 3 lambda second version is there. And in the code, let's add ID button 3 set on click listener. So next refinement is that if the last parameter is a function, then it can go out of parentheses. So here in set on click listener takes one parameter and then it takes a function as a parameter. Then what the Kotlin syntax says that the function could be placed outside the curly brace. So let me copy this part and then put it outside the parentheses, something like this. So that is a acceptable syntax refinement. So here we are going to use button 3 message, and button 3 message is button 3 is clicked. So in this code I'm going to give a B3 message there. So let's run this case. So from B2 and B3, the change is the method the set on click listener or any method takes a function as the last parameter. So if you have many parameters, it is the very last one, and then take the function outside the parentheses. That is a syntax requirement of the Kotlin. So now as I click this one, button 3 is clicked there. Now next refinement is on button 4. So let's give ID B4 and then label, avoid hard-coded strings. So label B4, value is button 4 Lambda, and third version is there. So go back to the program code, ID B4 set on click listener. And the next advisement is that if it is the only parameter. So what I mean by that is in this case the function was the only parameter. So we move that outside the parentheses, which is a parameter list there. Then if that is the only one, then we can remove the parentheses. So here we don't need to give a parenthesis if the function was the only parameter, like that. Then we need to have a proper message for button 4. So in button 4, the message will be button 4 clicked. So here, let's change that button 4 message there. So that's a next refinement. And let's test. There's a compile error. The error is down here. So here I should give a closing parenthesis and then curly brace. So there's a matching error there. Run it. So button 4 is clicked there, and then final refinement and then revisement is as follows. So button label B5, no hard-coded strings. Label B5, button 5 Lambda 4, which is the last refinement there. So in the code, so the last improvement is a B5 set on click listener. Now we have this form. So this one was the one. So next refinement is that if the parameter, which is a v, is not used, then you can omit parameter and then up to arrow. So this part could be completely omitted. That's the next refinement. Only if the parameter is not used. So here inside of that, you can simply copy that code. Let me give a line break for a better view. Then this is the final refinement. Then as you may notice now, this is the final form that we have used so far. So far when you attach the event listener using just empty curly brace, within that we just wrote the code, whatever you want to do. So this is the one we have used so far. And in this exercise, I have shown you how we come to down here, which is a lambda expression. So to fix finalize that, let me copy another message for button 5. Then in the program, when the button 5 is clicked, B5 message is there. So let's test the final one. Now button 5 is clicked. So here, I've shown you why this syntax works for event handler for button through progressions of lambda expression development. Even the very last one, the syntax requirement was that if the variable parameter is not used, you can simply delete up to arrow part. But here, still, you can have access to the parameter v using reserved word in Kotlin called it. That's why Android Studio in grade fonts it says it as a view type. So if you need to use a parameter v in this lambda expression, just use a reserved word it. So you remember this is referring to the current object, but it is referring to the current parameter. So we will utilize it in later exercise.